Hello, and welcome to Common Sense, our Sunday morning little chat while you have coffee. And I try to do this in 30 minutes or less. And if you've seen my last video, you understand that um, I get my tongue tangled all the time. So I write things down and I'm going to read them to you and we'll have some conversation here. I wanted to talk about what a patriot is because everybody seems to be throwing that word all over the place these days. And if you look at the true definition of that, it is one who loves, supports, and defends their own country. It's not about party affiliations. However, it is considered to be people who believe in law and order, the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, and freedom. People flee socialist and communist countries because they believe in all those things as well. When I speak of flee, I mean people have sponsors or come here legally. I'd like to tell you a story. We had the pleasure of having a foreign exchange student from Tajikistan live with us for a year. We applied for a 180-day extension because he wanted to become a citizen. And he had been around to the Air Force, Marines, tons of places. He wanted to be in the military because he thought that really would make him an American, right? That was his goal. So we paid money, filled out forms. I think it was like $180 for a 90-day extension. We did all of that, and we didn't hear from them. So he and I got in the car and we drove down to the Department of Naturalization in Detroit, Michigan. It was about a 3-4 hour drive. I don't know. It was a drive. We get there, and I have never seen such rude people in all my life. They threatened me within my life. They were going to throw me in jail if I didn't put him on the next plane back to his country. So I ended up paying $3,000 for a one-way ticket, got him on a plane in Detroit. He never got to say goodbye to my husband, his brothers, siblings, anyone else. It was a horrible, horrible ordeal and very devastating to all of us. So, do I take it personally with all this crap going on at our borders? Yes, I do. To add insult to injury, they're given free food, healthcare, phones, etc. And I say free, but we all know what that really means. You and me, our tax dollars. And I'm not saying they shouldn't come. Let's not twist it around like the news did to somebody else that talked about this. I'm saying there should be a process, not coming in by the thousands and then automatically giving them all this stuff that we never got, our kids never got, very few people have gotten. And I could also tell you many stories of events people shared with me from New Mexico, Arizona, and Texas. Now, for 8 years, we owned an RV. When we first retired, that was our dream. We traveled for 8 years. We went all around the United States. And some states we blew through, like Iowa, Nebraska. I mean, there wasn't that much that I was interested in, really. But most of the states we spent time in. And we spent 6 weeks out there. And I have one relative and 3 friends that we also visited in the area. And they all had stories. And just horrific stories. But the ones that got to me the worst were the ones they showed me. Areas where you can literally walk across the Rio Grande. Rio Grande sounds so huge you couldn't do that, but you can in certain spots. And they would walk across, and they'd take their ATVs or whatever. They would steal cattle, pigs, chickens, whatever they wanted, and they'd go in groups, and they'd group rape women and children right in front of the rest of the family, father and the brothers. Sometimes they did brothers too. So when I hear the news say that people don't want the walls in those areas, I know they're lying. They are lying. Many people have already sold their ranches and moved out. Their value of their land has gone down. It's a nightmare, and it has been for many, many years. And of course, right now it's just off the charts. As long as I live, I'll never forget those stories or never stop praying for those people. So back to being a patriot, and what can you and I do? First of all, you have to take care of yourself first, just like those stories when you're in the airplane and they tell you if the plane goes down, if you can think that right, put the oxygen mask on yourself first so that you can help your child or those around you. Well, it's the same way. If you don't take care of yourself first, you aren't going to be in any shape to take care of other people around you that you love. So, second, you need to take care of those around you, starting with your family, friends, neighbors, and your community. We have to forget about yesterday and stop worrying about tomorrow and start living for today. What can we do today to make life better, not just for ourselves, for children, but for others? So, third will not make me very popular, but I can't help it. Be present as a parent. I know when you're going through it, you think it's forever. It's not. It's a temporary, the most responsible job you will ever have in your life. Teach your children respect and manners. That's worth saying again. Teach your children respect and manners. Please. Thank you. Make at least one meal a day. Doesn't matter if it's breakfast, dinner, what it is. Make one meal a day, complete family time, and discuss the day's events for everyone at the table. Pay attention to what they are watching on TV and the video games that they're playing or social media if they're on that, whatever. Pay attention. As they grow old enough, teach them to have pride in their country and teach them about our Constitution. There's nice little books out here. It's another thing that you could do. You can contact this company, which is, let's see here, www.nccs.net/PC. And they've already distributed over 15 million copies. So you could pick up a bunch of them, perhaps pass them out to kids and their friends, or you'll find places that you can do them, or just get one for yourself. It's a great little reference. I've referred to mine occasionally. I'd be lying if I said anything other than that. So anyhow, teach them about that and say the Pledge of Allegiance with them every day. And for God's sakes, teach them to think for themselves. They're not learning in school, let alone college, how to think for themselves anymore. Everything's memorized or whatever the instructor says. Teach them to be critical thinkers. When I was in school, I was lucky enough we had debate teams. And you could pick what side of the debate you wanted to be on, and guess what? The teacher's going to put you on the opposite side, and you better learn how to debate something that you don't even believe in. It was a real eye-opener, for sure. So we need to teach children to think for themselves and not to follow the crowd. Or as when I was a kid, my parents used to say, while the other kids jump off the bridge, are you going to too? No, because I'm afraid of heights and I don't like water. But anyhow, I digress all the time, don't I? And as hard as it is when they become teenagers, expect them to hate you. That's the natural process we all go through. Remember what it was like when you were a teenager? You go from a small child and your parents know everything to a teenager. Now your parents know nothing and you know everything. Everything. There's a topic you don't know more about than your parents. They're dumber than rocks, right? Well, you're not their best friend right now. There's time for enough time for that later, and it's wonderful when it comes. But you got to go through it to get to it. So just try to guide them, or if you have a decent relationship, then find gentle ways to correct their poor decisions. And remember, we all make poor decisions. It's not an age thing. I still make some poor decisions, but we should learn. I always tell my kids, what you learn from a poor decision is not to repeat it. You can make a new bad decision, but don't make an old bad decision. Number 4, listen, respect, and be loyal to your employer. Treat everyone like you expect to be treated. If you absolutely hate your job, start making plans on how to get out of there. Get a new job. Get something else lined up. Change your field. Whatever you got to do, work towards that goal. But don't be an unhappy employee. That does nobody any good. It's not good for your boss. It's not good for your coworkers. I listen to too many people bitch about their jobs. And I just want to say, hey, you're the captain of your ship. Put that ship in a different direction. Fifth, this one, empty nest syndrome. Oh, for heaven's sakes, don't let that happen to you. You've gained some wisdom and experience in life by the time you get to the stage where your children are grown and they're in college. So now start seeking ways that you can help others. And we're going to touch upon some of those ways in a few minutes. Number 6, if you are blessed enough to be a grandparent, somebody said if I could go through, just skip being a parent and jump to being a grandparent, I would. And the reason they say that is it is wonderful time. So know what your grandchildren like and expand on that. The most important thing you can do is spend your time with them, because chances are their parents don't have time to spend with them. They're so busy working, trying to keep food on the table and a roof over their head. So take them on field trips. Teach them how to read a road map. Oh, don't Google it. Learn how to read a road map. Tell them what a dictionary is like and how to look words up in it. How to read a recipe. How about reading books together? When they're little, you read books to them. When they're older, you can read books together. Go fishing and hunting or trail walking, etc. Any of those family things that you love to do. Each child is different. It isn't always about money. People forget that. It's about time. Children, just like us old people, we like attention and time. So deeply instill family traditions in your grandchildren. And don't forget, kids love to hear about the good old days. I tell my kids about when I used to have to heat their my baby's formula in a little pan on the stove, hot water, boil, boil, boil. Baby's on your hip, crying, crying. You're trying to rock and love that. Love my shirt says love. Can you see that? Love, 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 love. Anyhow, so the baby's crying and you put it on your wrist, too cold. Next thing you know, you put it on too hot. Now you got to run it under the cold. All of that stuff before microwaves, and then I guess they decided to do room temperature now. Anyhow, but they get a kick out of it. They get a kick out here, and I have stories about what my grandmother had an outhouse, and I mean, just all kinds of stories. Share those traditions, because after you're gone, it's too late, and they're never going to hear them from anybody else, and they won't know what questions to ask you. So you think of things to share with them. Very, very important. Now we get to volunteer. Whether you know it or not, you have something to offer your community. Whatever your background was, your hobbies, there's something out there that you can make a difference. It might be visiting old people and reading them short stories. One of my favorite books, it's Billy Graham, it's Wisdom for a Day, and it's just a really short story. Upbeat and lifting. And of course, they have Bible verses in there. If you're inclined, you can read all those. And I'm one of those people, I say, I'm too busy. I got other stuff to do, but I at least read that story before I go through my grateful list. I find I have to do that every day, too, to keep positive. Number 8. Number 8 is for every single registered voter. Everybody turns out for presidential elections. That's one man. And there might be a few other people on there. Well, yeah, the vice president. And when I say man, I mean man, woman. I'm not going to be politically correct. I'm too old to change everything about myself. But anyhow, you need to understand it's those off elections when you're voting for congressmen and senators and representatives. And what I want you to keep in mind is once they're elected, it doesn't matter what party they are. It doesn't matter they're a different party than you are. By now, everybody knows I'm an independent. I get mail from Republicans. I get mail from Democrats. Excuse me. And I write to all of them because I know I don't care what party they're from. I voted for them. And they're not going to get my vote if I don't like what they have to say, if they answer me. Some answer. I stopped writing to the governor last year because he was doing such a good job. He didn't need my opinion. But anyhow, so you email your representatives, congressmen, and senators. Now I put mine in an email group so I can, when I have a thought, boom, I do it. And I'll give you an example. Here's a short one. Just this week, all my email says, I object to tax dollars being spent on a gender council. I guess there's up to 35 genders now in our race. And it makes me feel especially glad that I was raised, and my children were raised with Mr. Rogers. Remember Mr. Rogers' neighborhood? He would come on, hang up his coat, put on his sweater, sit down, tie his shoes, and he would sing little songs. And here's a song he sang. And maybe it's time we get back. They keep trying to make life so complicated. But here's what Mr. Rogers said. Me, 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 me. I'm not a singer either. Anyhow, boys are fancy on the outside. Girls are fancy on the inside. Everybody's fancy. Everybody's fine. Your body's fancy and so is mine. Now the song goes on and it has other verses, which I don't agree with all of it. But anyhow, you get the idea. I'm pretty simple-minded. Another thing you can do is donate time and or money to worthy causes that you believe in. Number 9, start attending local or city councils. Grab some friends or maybe your spouse or significant other and make a night of it. Go out to dinner and go to the meeting, or go to the meeting, then go out to dinner or for drinks and sit around and discuss what you heard, who you liked, who you thought had charisma, who made a good point. I love debates. I love to hear both sides, pros and cons, and then make my decision. In the courtroom all the time, I would listen to prosecutor and I think, oh my God, she's guilty as hell. And then I would listen to the defense attorney and I went, well, I'm not so sure about it. I guess I need to hear more. That's the way I like it. Oh, well, I digress. Okay. So another thing, number 10 is a biggie. I can't do it for health reasons, but many of you can, and probably most of you are a lot smarter than I am. Start running for office at your local community. I mean, school boards, even representatives, get your feet wet there. Volunteer for, if there's a representative that you like in your area, go in and talk to them or talk to the people on staff. Ask them what their opinions are. Tell them what your background is. What can they do? Now, everyone always believes time is an issue for them. Everybody thinks they don't have enough time. And time is very precious, for sure. But it really is true that if there's will, there's a way. And busy people always seem to find time for important matters. Turn off the national news. The days of Barbara Walters, Tom Brokaw, Mike Wallace, David Brinkley, and Chet Huntley are over. By the way, I believe they were all very good Democrats, but you would never know that because they were journalists first. They weren't activists like we have today, who are told to say and be obnoxious because that increases the ratings. It seems to be the more obnoxious they are. I don't know. I don't watch any of that garbage. I watch local news to get my weather and what's going on locally, but I do not watch national news, nor have I in many, many years. So when the boy said, good night, David, good night, Chet, I said sayonara myself. Also, here's shortcuts. You can start thinking of things of your own. Just a few things that I do. I started doing this years ago. You know, you're supposed to brush your teeth 3 minutes on top, 3 minutes. So what I do is I do leg lifts and count them while I'm brushing my teeth. Bathroom's small, that's okay. You turn sideways and do it. I do a few squats or something else while I'm cooking or making gravy, and when I'm in the shower, I start planning what I'm going to make for dinner. That way I don't have to think about it for the rest of the day. I can't believe how many people say to me, I just didn't know what to make for dinner, so we went out. Really? Well, that really adds up if you start doing that a lot, and it's not as nutritious for you, and it's not quality time because you're sitting in a restaurant. You're not sitting around talking to the people you love. There's a lot of reasons. I'm not saying I don't go out. I love to go out. But I'm just saying some families do it way, people, period, do it way too often. In general, we become a very self-centered society, and every single one of us needs to work on that. I live in a small community, retirement community. I can't tell you how many times people have told me, I don't get involved in anything. This is my time. I just want to golf and have fun. I don't want any stress or drama in my life. Ah, good luck with that one. So people, especially the young ones, they're always telling me how busy they are, but they're doing this all the time. All the time. They're on social media or whatever the hell they're doing. They do it while they eat. They do it while they're talking to you, and they're telling you they're multitasking. Really? So, but they always have time to be on those phones and getting tattoos and piercings and the money for it and everything else. So I got to tell you a real quick funny story. A comedian told this story once. I thought it was funny. Her son was bringing girls home all the time, new ones all the time, for her to meet. Now he's asking her what she thought about him. One time he brings home this gal. She's got a tongue ring. She's got a nose piercing with a chain that goes over here to her ear. And she's got a safety pin in her eyebrow. So anyhow, later, son says to Mama, he just can't wait for this. He said, well, what do you think of Tanya? Mama says, oh, she's got a lot of tattoos. And she said, and I learned something. He said, really? What'd you learn? She says, well, I guess your eyebrows can fall off. I didn't know you had to have a safety pin to keep them on. It's funny when the comedian told it. Hopefully you're laughing. Anyhow, since April of 2020, I've been following many people online. I'm going down lots of rabbit holes, and one rabbit hole leads you to another hole. And about the only one that I am gone very down far with is discussions on 5G. I know lots of talking about the radiation and everything. I heard that years ago with when cell phones first came out, and then you got your companies cropping up with all of their gimmicks so you won't get it, and stay away from living near towers. And I've heard it all before, so I just kind of tuned that all out. But last week I gave you a great source with Ann Vandersteel from Steel Truth, 5 hours a week. I never miss her. And eventually, when we get through this series with me, I'll just do 30 minutes of what went on during the week, so you don't have to watch anything but me if you don't want to, even though I'm not a techie person, I'm not a speaker, I'm not very good at this, but I can share information. Now, the very best researcher I've found, her name is Mel K, and her show is called The Mel K Show. And she's a journalist, a real journalist. She has a degree in it. She's a truth seeker. She lives in the Manhattan area, and she's had 15 years experience working in Hollywood, as well as working personally for President Trump, knows the entire Trump family, has a lot to say. But most of all, she has a most infectious smile and a very upbeat attitude in general. And I just love listening to her. Absolutely, without hesitation, every morning I listen to Robert David Steele, Steele. He's an ex-Marine. He's an ex-CIA operative. He keeps his podcast at 30 minutes or less. He's a wealth of knowledge. I don't believe every little thing he says, but he gives me 99.9% excellent information and tells me where to go to research it for myself. Also, he has an extensive website and blog where you can learn many things absolutely free. He's got free online books you can learn, and you need to start learning about pedophilia, because if you don't, you're going to end up shocked in the very near future when all of this stuff, when the truth starts coming out, when we get rid of I almost said fake news. Whoops, I did say it. But when the truth comes out, why it's been fake news, what all they've been hiding, how they're all involved in it, it's way really deep, and you can find out all of that stuff on his website if you're so inclined. If you don't want to know that stuff, fine. Three others I enjoy for news are mostly for their voices: Doug Billings from The Right Side, and Scott McKay, the Patriot Street Fighter, and also Greg Kelly from Newsmax. He's a good interviewer. I like the way he interviews people. He's not antagonistic at all. He doesn't go on the defense. He just asks questions and expands on it. And by the way, if you ever get a chance to hear a young man's poems, Mark Atwood, Mark, M-A-R-K, Atwood with 2 T's, A-T-T-W-O-O-D. His poems are absolutely amazing. Uh, Friends have asked me, so here you go. I'll share with you. I use DuckDuckGo as my search engine and BitChute and Rumble instead of YouTube. And since learning things about different CEOs and companies, personally, I will not buy Nike. I buy my books from Barnes and Noble. I try any means possible besides Amazon to purchase other commodities. I will not eat at McDonald's, buy coffee at Starbucks, nor drink Coke products now, most recently. I worked summers for 10 years, 6 days a week for my aunt who was a small business owner. Rule number one from a business standpoint was never tell anyone your troubles, but listen to theirs. Never talk politics. If they voice their opinion, try to change the subject or just agree and walk away. Of course, we did a lot of rolling our eyes after they left. What an idiot type thought, you know? So that's it, folks. We the people means all the people. All the people. No matter what your faith, gender, or color is, respect your fellow Americans, no matter what their opinion is, including me. Respect your fellow Americans. Oh, that was so great. I had to say it twice. Respect them no matter what. They're entitled to their opinion just like you are, but never stop asking questions or listening to others and searching for the truth. And that's your Sunday morning common sense.